Democrats enjoy popularizing polls that show President Trump with poor approval ratings. But Democrats' track record with polls hasn't been very strong, especially considering their confidence in the polls showing Hillary Clinton winning the 2016 election would win the presidency. The last approval rating poll should surprise them almost as much as the election results. As the Washington Examiner reported, a new poll revealed approval ratings of key European leaders. Germany's Angela Merkel, Britain's Theresa May, and France's Emmanuel Macron have worse approval ratings than President Trump. The Zogby Analytics survey includes the headline, "Citizens of France, Germany and UK not happy with Macron, Merkel and May." It adds, "A majority of adults in France and UK dislike Macron and May. Nearly half of adults in Germany dislike Merkel." Zogby determined Merkel's approval rating at 40% with disapproval at 49%. Macron's approval rating was 28% with disapproval at 52%. May's approval rating was 28%, with the highest disapproval at 61%. Monday's Rasmussen Reports daily presidential tracking poll shows that 41% of likely voting Americans approve of President Trump's job performance, while 57% disapprove. Just 10 days ago, Rasmussen reported 44% approval and 55% disapproval for President Trump. The day of Mr. Trump's inauguration, his approval rating stood at 56%. He reached as high at 59% less than a week later, before the typical decline set in. Eventually, his approval dipped down to a low of 38% in August, but has been steadily above 40% since then. It has remained fairly steady in the 40–44% range. Pollsters agreed that President Trump's approval was lower at certain points in the presidency than any president in polls since 1945, however, no other president has seen a media war executed against them such as the one being waged against President Trump. Pew Research Center showed that President Trump received an average of 62% negative media coverage. This is a drastic contrast to former presidents in their first terms. Negative media coverage consisted of 20% for former President Obama, 28% for former President Bush, and 28% for former President Clinton. While President Trump only received 5% positive coverage, it was 42% for Obama, 22% for Bush, and 27% for Clinton. President Trump also had the least neutral media coverage at 33%. Protests spurred by leftist and progressive groups, White House leaks, intense scrutiny from leftist journalists, along with heavily liberal millennials have all contributed to negative perceptions of President Trump. In spite of that, he has managed a higher approval rating than European leaders, such as Merkel, a champion of open borders, and Macron, a popular centrist. Top leaders in Europe have lower approval ratings than President Trump. Does this mean Trump is doing a good job? Although the U.S. has a lower confidence and approval rating during the Trump administration than it did in the prior administration, it seems inconsistent with the praise Mr. Trump received from several foreign leaders. President Trump was recently showered with praise and adoration in China, where many spoke positively about his leadership and character. Other countries he visited during his Asia tour had positive reactions. If anything, the polls indicate how overly harsh the media and polling organizations have become, and how unreliable they are when it comes to President Trump and the presidency in general. The overwhelming bias and negativity in the media and polling organizations shows how untrustworthy the numbers are. Americans should be pleased that their overly criticized leader is more popular than European leaders.